Hey guys, welcome back to DC Extra. My name is Chris, and today we're going to be breaking down Season 9, Episode 13 of The Flash. As always, before we get into the breakdown, make sure you've watched the episode, as there will be some major spoilers ahead. Alright, so as you may or may not know, this is the final episode of the season, and the series as a whole. And not only that, but it also marks the end of the entire Arrowverse. So big shoes to fill this episode has, but let's see how it is. As with the previous three, this is a part of the New World event, and this is part 4 titled Finale. And this actually starts the same way Season 1 Episode 1 started, with Barry telling the audience to believe in the impossible. In fact, I believe they reused the exact same clip from Season 1. Barry comes back from the future after Eddie embraced his negative speed force and becomes its avatar, and he tells the team about the current situation. We then flash back to Zoom's death in Season 2, but this time he doesn't die, and is brought into the negative speed force, along with Godspeed, Reverse Flash, and Savitar, all brought there by Eddie, now calling himself Cobalt Blue. He proposes that they all work together to kill the Flash and his entire family, to which they all agree. Meanwhile, Barry visits Iris in the hospital, where we learn that she's about an hour off giving birth, and then Eddie turns up to the hospital, but Barry runs him away and they fight, eventually coming to a stop where the rest of Team Flash back him up. But to all their surprise, Eddie's own speedster team shows up and they all run off in separate directions, taking on a member of Team Flash each, with Barry going after Eddie, Keone and Mark going after Zoom, Cecile going after Godspeed, Nora going after Savitar, and then Allegra going after Reverse Flash. Oh, and apparently Cecile can fly now, because why not? Savitar catches up to Nora and attempts to kill her, in the same way that he did Iris, or really HR, who was disguised as Iris. But Nora ends up phasing through the blade that she was stabbed with, and then snaps it off and stabs him with it instead. Cecile battles an army of Godspeed clones, and then finally comes face to face with the Prime, and uses her telepathic powers to take him down. Meanwhile at Star Labs, Thawne pays Chester a visit, sitting in his old wheelchair that he used back in Season 1. With no one there to protect him, Thawne attacks Chester with lightning, and swears that he will be the one to kill Barry, not Eddie. But before he gets the chance to go after Barry, Allegra shows up and lets out a massive blast of energy to take him down. And somehow Chester survives. Potentially from the energy Allegra let out, but not too certain on this one. At the same time, Zoom is confronted by Keone, who gets returned to sender by throwing his own lightning back at him. Eddie steals Kylo Ren's lightsaber and attempts to kill a bystander, but Jay shows up and steals his speed, similarly to how his doppelganger did to Barry in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Although I guess it was more Barry's doppelganger because it was another version of Barry from the original TV series. But you know, Jay calls it his doppelganger because they look the same. Eddie then takes the speed from his allies, causing them to once again disappear. No doubt because they only lived due to the negative speed force bringing them back, the same way it did Eddie. Eddie then goes into the negative speed force to get more power, but this would make him destroy himself, which Barry doesn't want to let happen. Keone helps Barry get into the negative speed force and tells him to get the negative and positive speed forces to coexist with one another in order to create a better world. So in the speed force, Barry confronts Eddie, but instead of fighting him, he lets himself get beat up and explains that he became the very thing he swore to destroy. And then a memory of his about wanting to be Iris's hero convinces him to listen to Barry, and he destroys the Cobalt Gem, fixing the timeline and agreeing to work alongside Barry, even though they may not always agree with each other. Barry then goes back to the hospital just in time to be there for Nora's birth. After being analysed, Chester finds out that he has powers linked to black holes, because of the time he became a black hole. And he now calls himself a chunk.
I'm a chunk, baby! I'm a chunk, C-H-U-N-K. Okay.
Timeless Wells shows up to greet Keone and tells her that it's time for her to ascend to godhood and embrace her place as the protector of the natural order. Nora is born, and then Keone says her goodbyes before ascending, leaving her mortal body. But because she doesn't need the body anymore, she leaves her body again to Caitlin, bringing her back to life. But sadly, Frost, as we know it, is still dead. We jump forward a week in time, where Team Flash and a few additional others are gathered at a party. Here Barry apologises to Caitlin for the way he acted the last time they saw each other. And Nora holds her own infant self. And I have to agree with Barry here, this is very trippy. Jo makes a speech celebrating Iris becoming a mother and winning a Pulitzer. But that's not the main takeaway from this scene, because Jo proposes to Cecile.
I mean, finally, am I right?
To which she obviously says yes to. To end off the episode, and the show as a whole, Barry decides to share his powers with a few select people, now generating the lightning bolt that struck him over 9 years ago. The people he chooses are Avery Ho, Max Mercury, and Jess Chambers, all of whom share a comic counterpart of the same names who are each speedster heroes in their own right. Then he goes for one final run before the show ends and the credits roll. And that there marks the end of an era, with the Flash ending and therefore ending the entire Arrowverse, which started over 10 years ago with Arrow in 2012. It has been one hell of a ride, and I want to thank you all for sharing this time with me over the last few years. Now, just because the Arrowverse is ended, that doesn't mean I'm going to stop uploading videos, but it does mean I will have to shift my focus a little bit. So coming up, I will be making a breakdown for the Flash movie once that comes out, and going from there, I will focus on everything DCU, ranging from shows, movies, and anything else they put out. Plus, as I mentioned before, I will review Superman and Lois once the third season ends. The same goes for Gotham Knights, but obviously in that case it's the first season, not the third. And any news that comes out, I will be talking about that, in addition to any other content that I feel might be fun to make. But anyway, that there marks the end of the video. So I would like to thank you all for sticking through to the end, and I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. But until next time, this has been Chris, and I'll be seeing you.